Next up on the tee, she's a Texan. She's a major champion on the LPGA Tour as a player and now the captain for Team USA in the Solheim Cup this September. It's Angela Stanford back on the Course of Life podcast. Angela, good to see you again. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you. And our audience as well has some breaking news right now. I was kind of hinting at it for the last couple of months, but I've officially got myself booked. I've got a Europe trip planned with the centerpiece being the weekend in the Netherlands at the Solheim Cup. So I'm excited to be there and see everything in person as well, too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you ever been to an away Solheim Cup?
I never have. My first competition experience was getting to Bethpage last summer with the PGA of America, and once I saw that, I was like, all right. Thinking about Europe, I was like, Solheim Cup's next on the list, so here we
Wow.
are.
Yeah, well, you're gonna love it. Different vibe, as in anything, any sport when you play away from home, there's always a little bit of a different vibe. So glad you're making the trip.
Definitely, yeah. So to set the table for golf fans, obviously everyone knows the men have the Ryder Cup and the women have the Solheim Cup. The Solheim Cup's now got about 3 decades of history, and you're a big part of it. You played in six of them as well too, and have some experience captaining. For golf fans who haven't seen that environment and what the Solheim Cup is like, take us through the intensity of the competition.
Man, I tell you, it's really kind of hard to put into. I guess the best way to say it is like being at a soccer match. And there's just constant noise and people are great when players are trying to hit the ball, but first tee there's cheering, they sing songs, there's music going. It's the rowdiest version of golf you'll ever find. So I tell people if you've never been to an LPGA event, start with the Solheim Cup. I believe it's our best event. I had to get used to you would tee off and you'd hear all the noise on the first hole, and then you get to like the second green and you could still hear the noise from the first tee. So it's a different environment and it's just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, there's lots of events where you hear loud applause and fans at golf events, but this is more of that like stadium amphitheater, like feels like a concert at times. How does that
Oh
energy
yeah.
translate to players and how do you navigate that, playing and being in the arena trying to hit golf shots?
Yeah, it's just a different level of intensity, of adrenaline, just that feeling of just that energy that you get from, being on the first tee. And it is like a stadium setting. They kind of wrap around the first tee, and we don't always get things like that. And a lot of just golf tournaments, not men or women, don't have that. So we're going to have over 2,000 people around the first tee in the Netherlands when we tee off on September 11th. So it's unlike any atmosphere you've ever been a part of. And I've never had one person go to a Solheim Cup and say anything, but I can't wait for the next one.
Nice. Love that. Awesome. Very cool. And it's this September as well, too. And it's a 3-day competition. So the first 2 days, kind of two-on-two team-based matches. And then Sunday is that crucial day when it's one-on-one singles. You've been a part of many of them, like I mentioned, six. And specifically in 2015, you had a really cool opportunity as a player. Describe what it's like to be part of a match that like decides the entire Solheim Cup.
Yeah, that Sunday, first it was historical. Uh, we've never been down that far. It was the greatest comeback ever in the history of the Solheim Cup. We were down 10-6 going into to singles. Um, and everybody had to win their match. Everybody kind of had to do their job. And if you remember, Jarena Pillar made the putt on 18 that just without Jarena making that putt, it didn't really matter what I was doing behind her. So it was kind of that kind of day. Like the farther you got in your match and when you won, it affects everybody because we weren't going to win without everybody winning. So to be on the 17th hole, to be playing Suzanne, to get that full point and beat Suzanne and then ultimately clinch the cup, it was the best memory I've had on a golf course by far.
What was it like in terms of knowing, like you said, you were kind of saw there were matches in front of you, but at what point did you realize like the point or the hole I'm about to play could decide the Solheim Cup, and what was that emotion like?
Yeah, those Sundays are really interesting because you always know when things are over by how many people start watching your match. So as I started to see, first off, we kept playing. That's your first indication that it still matters. You're still playing. And then two, people kept filtering back to my match. So by the time I think it was 17 fairway, I realized that because I was one up. No, I was two up. I'm sorry. I was two up on 17. And I knew if I could at least tie that hole, we're finished. Everything. We win the cup. So I didn't realize it until I was in 17 fairway. But like I said, you have these indications and clues. You're still playing. It still matters. People start falling back to your match. So I kind of got the feeling in 17 fairway, and I kind of and there was a leaderboard there, so I kind of started putting everything together. And I remember I got over the wedge shot that I had, and I just kept telling myself, "You've done this a million times." I mentally I put myself back at my home course, and you've hit this shot a million times, so let's just hit it again. And we both made par, and yeah, I got that point and got the cup.
Very cool memory indeed. Obviously, part of your playing career on Team USA for the Solheim Cup. And you've had a good run seeing what captaincy is like, being an assistant captain three times now for Pat Hurst and Stacey Lewis twice. The last time we connected on the podcast, you just got back from being with Stacey Lewis her first time around as captain. But what have those three Solheim Cups taught you about what a leadership role is going to look like versus being one of the 12 on the team?
Yeah, I always said being a player in the Solheim Cup, you're worried about yourself and you're worried about your game. You have to be completely ready. As an assistant, I found out you got to worry about 12 people getting ready. So then as a captain now, it's you see everything. You have the 30,000 foot view of everything, and you have to make sure everything is going the way it's supposed to go, and you have to make all those little decisions along the way. So I think the big difference is now we're worried about all the players instead of when I was playing, I'm just worried about me and taking care of my game and getting prepared. So now we got to get all 12 prepared.
Definitely, yeah. And obviously, there's time now where we're trying to figure out exactly what the teams look like. So the qualification process is still going on. So, what's your process like in terms of your approach, scouting players? There's obviously players who we think are going to be in, but there's players who are on the brink and on the bubble or as well. What's that scouting and what do those conversations look like for you right now, about 4 or 5 months out?
I'm in a very fortunate spot in that for the most part, we have seen most of these players in Solheim Cups. So we know what they do when they get there. We know their numbers. We know who they fit with, who they pair well with. There's a handful of players that we don't have that intel on. So, I'm following their stats. We're working with Justin Ray again this year. He's following their stats for us. And for me, I don't necessarily like to be around that much when they're trying to, when they're out there trying to work. And, I need them to get as many points as they can each tournament. So I need them playing well. So for me to just kind of be hanging around and watching, I'm trying to be careful with that.
Okay.
These few players that we're looking at that we don't know much about, when I go and watch them, I'm looking for their body language. I'm looking at their demeanor. I'm looking at what happens when they make a bogey, just how they react to things, just everything body language wise. And then, we're watching the stats and just I'm 50-50 on stats. I think you use numbers to guide you, and we are going to use numbers to guide us. But then I'm still real big on the eyeball test. What your eyes see week of is very different than, take this week. If you're playing an LPJ event, wherever it is in the world, it's very different from Solheim week. So I think stats matter, but also you have to kind of watch them and just, you have to use your eyes too.
For sure, yeah. And in terms of pairings, like, are you looking that far ahead to see like who could potentially play with who, or are you still kind of looking at what the teams look like? Are players on the team already talking to you about who they would like to play with in September? Where are we at with that?
We're just kind of getting started in that. Again, the beauty of having that history with some of these players and knowing who they've paired well with. But I've also asked Justin to kind of help me put together a few names that, for those players we're watching, can they go out and play a practice round with another player that we're looking at? See if they can just, if they're compatible, see if
Okay.
they can enjoy being on the golf course together. That's kind of where we're at now. I think probably, not during major weeks, but, I think maybe the week of Kroger in Cincinnati. We may ask some of the players to just see if they could play some practice rounds with other players.
That's an interesting strategy because I do when I cover tournaments, I do a lot of walking on the course on like Mondays, Tuesdays, and it does tell you a lot about like, who's got what type of vibe. And it's a simple thing, but it does go a long way when you're kind of with them, in the battlefield and it's tournament time.
Well, I mean, and numbers again can only tell you so much. I mean, I will certainly not name names, but go all the way back to Spain was the first time we really used analytics. And there were some numbers on players that were off the charts good. Like they should pair perfectly. Okay, so we asked them go out and play. And they both came back and they're like, we don't have much in common. Like we can't like if you can't fit, if your personalities don't kind of gel a little bit, then that number really doesn't matter.
Mm,
Because to get to that number, to get to the best number, you also have to be in a very good headspace and you have to enjoy the person beside you or be able to be productive with the person beside you. So that's why I'm kind of big on, I'm 50-50 on this. I want them to get along. I want them to enjoy themselves out there. And again, you're not going to produce that number if you're not in a good space.
for sure. Yeah. Obviously, one player that we can definitely talk about. Let's go through a few different names that are definitely either on your team or your radar. We definitely do want to start the conversation with Nelly Korda. She just got her third major championship at the Chevron Championship. I'm sure you're pretty candid, obviously, with her because she's playing her way to the top of the standings yet again. But how about having her as a leader for a road game atmosphere here in 2026? Definitely going to be a little bit different. But what have you talked to her about that opportunity as a potential leader of the team?
Yeah, I've kind of just let Nellie do her thing. The few times that I've talked to her is more just about planning,
Okay.
what we're going to ask for from her and everybody else for the year. And I think Nellie's great when it comes to communication and what she needs and what we need from her, and she's all in. I think as we get closer, the thing about Nellie is that, just her presence and the way she kind of stays cool, calm, and collected no matter what. And you need that over there. We don't need major swings in our emotion when we go overseas and we play. So Nelly is great for that. Nelly is, you're going to get, you don't always know if she's playing really well or not because she just has that very cool, calm, collected demeanor, which is going to be awesome overseas.
Very well said indeed. And I like the way you mentioned that regarding the road game atmosphere too. Something I saw on display and all golf fans did is I'm gonna tip my cap a little bit to the European side. And Luke Donald absolutely turned over every stone as a captain of a Road Ryder Cup team last fall for his team, heading here to the Bethpage and to play as well as they did as a captain of a road team. I know you're detail oriented. What are the type of things that you're looking at that maybe we wouldn't even think about in terms of what you're organizing as we head towards the September for your team?
Yeah, I think it's more about just those little details, like just the little things to see how prepared we can be when we get there, to get them into, I know I keep saying headspace, but you know, what they need to pack, things that we could be working on now, knowing the golf course. We are going to go visit, some of us are going to go visit the golf course right after Evian, but
Nice.
I think it's more what I'm doing that the players don't know about right now. Whether it's deciding on our menus, we've seen the hotel. Is there anything that we can do to enhance their room?
Are you
Um,
checking the
you
bed sheets like Luke Donald did? He was very neurotic about the thread count. Yeah.
yeah, bed sheets are good for us. I approve. The hotel's wonderful. We've seen the hotel. It's great. So yeah, I think just little things in planning and their clothing and there are just so many little things that they don't know about right now that you're right. I'm trying to uncover every stone and make sure we don't miss anything. And when they get there, starting September 7th, I just need them to play. I need them to be them. I need them to play, and that's my goal.
Mhm. Very good. Angela Stanford joining us here. She's captain of the Team USA Solheim Cup in September, where I'm going to be headed. It's in the Netherlands. I've been doing a lot of research in this region now, and I'm starting to learn it, as are you, I'm sure, from your trips. But give people a little bit of a tour of what this venue is going to look like. Is it Le Bernardus? Do I have that pronunciation correct?
I just say Bernardus.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, yeah.
Bernardus, it's about an hour south of Amsterdam, from what I understand. But in your time visiting the venue, the area, what have you seen about the course and the venue specifically?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. The course itself felt like a Scottish golf course to me. It feels linksy, but you're not, there are some trees around. It was funny. I was telling somebody, yeah, there aren't really many trees. But then I thought, well, when you tee off on the first hole, you're going to see this big tree out, when and people are going to be like, well, wait, she said there are no trees.
Okay.
So there are some trees, but but it's not tree lined. Um, I think it plays like a Scottish golf course. I believe it's going to play firm and fast regardless of the weather. Paula and I went over last September and we had some rain and ball was still bouncing and releasing quite a bit. So it's going to take quite a bit of rain for that place to soften up, in my opinion. So yeah, I think the spectators are going to love it. It's going to be an easy walk. Not much up and down when it comes to undulation and stuff like that, but some rolling, I don't know, just I don't want to call them hills, but just rolling like knobs in the fairways that can direct your golf ball into places you don't want them to go. So it looks pretty open, but it plays really narrow.
Okay, noted. All right. I'm thinking out loud, and if you're on the borderline of that top 12 there, you might want to play well in the Scottish Open or maybe the Open
Yeah.
Championship. Just a thought here, maybe in the next few
Yes.
months.
I am circling those for sure. And just like the Aramco event at Shadow Creek,
Oh,
that
okay.
I was really paying attention there too. Anytime we can really watch these players play on a firm and fast track, we're paying attention.
Noted. Okay, very cool. And beyond the course, I'm excited for the spectator experience. I've covered tournaments in a lot of places, but this is going to be a very remote spot for me to visit. What's the actual kind of town like? You and I have Texas background. We see everything bigger in Texas. But
Yeah.
what's the actual area look like, and what have you enjoyed about your visits to the local area?
Well, I think it's again why this is going to be awesome for spectators. When you fly into Amsterdam, if you get a chance to hang out in Amsterdam for a couple of days, it's phenomenal. Great city, so much to see and do. The canals are beautiful. But then when you go down to the Bernardus area, it gave me like the little town, I call it Den Bosch. It had a small town feel to it. So I'm from a small town just north of Fort Worth, and I don't know, you feel like you're kind of out in the country, but then you have a little small town there. Where the teams are staying is in Tilburg. That's a bigger city that is actually west of the golf course. Family, friends, spectators are most likely going to be east of the golf course. So it had a very charming, just kind of small town feel to it. So I loved it. I felt right at home. People are nice. It was just we had a blast when we went over in September. So I'm really looking forward to getting back.
Very cool. I got to ask about the 19th hole and the food adventures there. What was the Texans' opinion of the food in Netherlands from your visits?
I love cheese, and all I
There we
did
go.
was just eat a bunch of cheese. So I had a great time.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, very cool. Well, I'm very excited to make the trip. Obviously, we're going to stay in communication as you get closer to your captaincy, but I'm excited to cover everything. And best of luck with the rest of your captaincy, and best of luck figuring out exactly who that team is going to be. Well, because I know that's going to be a tough task ahead for you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch them, and make sure you say hi over there. And yeah, I can't wait for us to all get there.
Awesome. Thanks again, Angela. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.